What's going on, everybody? This is Joseph from Nerds and Matrimony. Welcome back to Let's Play Shadow of the Colossus. So in the last episode, we ruined Christmas and killed Santa Claus. Yay! No, seriously, we fought Barbarous the Goliath inside his giant temple. And for those of you who are wondering about the Santa Claus reference, go watch the last episode. So I do want to apologize real quick for not uploading an episode yesterday. I had every intention of doing it, but things happened, life happened. Yesterday ended up being a very busy and stressful day, and yeah, I just never got around to uploading an episode. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, in hindsight, because I don't think my commentary would have been that great. Because yeah, it was a very stressful day and a very tiring day for both me and my wife. So yeah, so I am going to upload an episode today, obviously. So we're going after Colossus number 7, and this Colossus is unique because it is the only fight in the game that takes place in water. The entire fight takes place in water, I should say. There is another Colossus where part of the fight takes place in water, but this is the only one where the entire fight takes place in water. Now this is actually my second attempt at doing this, because when I tried recording this the first time, I got completely lost trying to find this guy. And I actually went way far away and ended up in the area where Colossus number 14 is. And I was like, okay, well, let me turn around and go back and see if I can backtrack. And I basically just ended up going in a giant circle. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to waste all this time. You know, you don't want to watch me bumble around like that. So I decided to just scrap that recording and just start over. I still didn't even know if I'm going the right way, but I do find him eventually here. I don't know, for whatever reason, this is the Colossus that I've always had trouble finding. I can never remember, you know, the right path to take to get to him. I don't know if this is the right path or not. I think it might be, actually. But yeah, I don't know, for whatever reason, this has always been the one that I always have trouble finding. Most of these Colossi, I've pretty much memorized how to get to them. There are a few that I still don't have memorized. You know, I just kind of follow the light of the sword and there's the general path. But for whatever reason, I can never remember how to get to this guy. I don't know why. This is the one that I have trouble remembering how to get to. But yeah. So, happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy Independence Day for those of us who live in America. What are you guys doing today? Are you celebrating with family or friends or by yourself? Whatever you're doing, I hope you have a good time. We're going over to my parents tonight for dinner because we live in the same town as my parents do. Not only that, but we also live like right around the corner. It's kind of crazy. So we're going to go over there for dinner tonight. We're going to have hot dogs and burgers and soda and cookies, and it's going to be lots of fun. So, yeah. Anyways, there's a shrine right here. This is actually one of those shrines that Dorman mentioned in part 2, where you can offer a prayer, quote-unquote, and you can save. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, there were some lizards on the ground. They did not have glowing tails. Nothing really happens if you kill those. You know, you just kind of kill them and they're dead, and there you go. So this is actually the area where we need to be. There's a giant lake here, surrounded on all sides by canyons and a ruin. Okay, you can actually see the Colossus down there in the water, those little sparks down there. So I'm going to ride aggro all the way to the end of this thing. I'm going to climb to the very top of the spiral tower and take a giant dive into the lake. And I'm going to take a drink. How many of you guys have tried the Whiteout Mountain Dew? It is very good if you haven't tried it. It's like a citrus flavor. My wife had me try it. She tried it and she was like, hey, this is good, you should try it. And I was like, okay. And now I'm hooked on it. Alright, so we're going to take a giant dive here. Sploosh. Alrighty, folks, say hello to HYDRUS the Leviathan. This is a giant eel, basically. And yes, this entire fight takes place in this lake. It's pretty unique. So basically, in order to get on him, what you have to do is you have to actually get his attention. Basically, swim in front of him. You'll hear him roar. It's kind of hard to hear sometimes, but if you listen closely, you can hear it. And when he sees you, he will start swimming up towards you. And the tail end of his body will come out of the water. You probably heard him right there. But yeah, he'll swim towards you. The tail end of his body will come out of the water. You want to grab onto it. He'll immediately go back into the water, so don't start running. Basically, what you want to do is you want to get to each of the spikes that are on his body. They act as trigger points. You want to stab each of them, and they will actually turn the spikes off. Because if you don't turn the spikes off, you actually can't progress forward, because the spikes conduct electricity, and it will hurt you if you try to pass them. So basically, once you stab all 3 spikes, and yes, they do damage him, once you've stabbed all 3, you just want to go up to his head. That's where the glyph is, and that is how you finish him off. Now, do be careful. He will shock his body every now and then, so even if you're not near the spikes, he can hurt you. It does a considerable amount of damage, too. He also will do this thing where he usually won't do it until you're up to like the last spike or on his head, but he'll do this maneuver where he'll just dive into the lake. Like, he'll basically just do a giant nosedive and just go straight down. If he does that, you want to let go of him immediately, because basically he's essentially trying to keep you underwater just to drown you and kill you. So if he does the nosedive, let go right away and get back up to the surface and get some air. Now, I did mention that the first time I tried to find this guy, I actually ended up in the area where the 14th Colossus is. And some of you are probably wondering, well, what happens if you do that? Like, if you go to an area where, you know, there's another Colossus that you're not looking for, but you happen to find it, can you fight it right away? No, you cannot. If you actually, like, for example, this is Colossus 7. If I were to actually go into the area where Colossus 14 is, he would be there, but he would not aggro. He would not attack me at all. He would just sit there. I think. I don't know. I've never had that happen. I think they'll either just sit there and not attack you, they'll just ignore you, or they just won't even be there. But yeah, you have to fight the Colossi in the order that you're supposed to fight them in. You can't sequence break it. So don't think you can just do that. But yeah. Anyways, so I'm actually going to get the first 2 spikes here this time. And yeah, sometimes, because it's completely up to him whether or not you can run, because you can't run underwater. So sometimes it can be kind of hard to get some distance on this guy, because, you know, he'll come out of the water for a brief moment, and you may run like 5 feet ahead, and then you have to hold on again because he's going back underwater. Kind of annoying, but you know, it is what it is. Actually, no, here he never came out of the water. I actually had to let go here, because he was not coming out of the water and I was running out of air, so I decided to just let go. I will say this, I do like this Colossus fight. I think it's very well designed. The Colossus himself looks really cool, I think. I just like how they designed it. And I like how this lake is completely closed in. It kind of makes you feel like, you know, kind of a sense of dread that, like, there's no way out. You're just locked in here with this giant monster, and there's no way out. You know, it's you and him, and, you know, one of you has to kill the other one. Who is it going to be? So, yeah. I'm trying to be quiet because I want you to hear him roar at me. There he goes. I don't know if you heard that or not, but he did roar at me. And by the way, do be careful. Try not to swim too close to his spikes when he's coming up after you, because they can clip you if you get too close to them. And if you actually touch the spikes themselves when they're electrocuted, they will do a lot of damage. Like when he electrocutes his body, it doesn't do that much damage. But if you touch one of the spikes, it can do a considerable amount of damage. Took another drink there. Alright, let's see if we can actually get some progress made on this guy here. Once again, he's not a very difficult Colossus. The only way he can damage you is by shocking you. Once you've taken out all 3 spikes, he cannot damage you anymore, because that's the only attack he has. The spikes are what power his electricity, so once you've taken them out, he can't even electrocute his own body anymore. So it's not a very difficult Colossus as far as the fight goes. The only difficult part is actually getting up to his head. And it doesn't take a lot to take out these spikes. Like a medium charge stab will do it in like 1 hit. So yeah, you'll notice when the spikes go out because they'll go completely black, so now I just have to get to the next one. And he did shock me there. You see how much damage that did. The good thing is it does take a while to get up to the front of this guy, so your health will probably have regenerated a good bit by the time you get to his head. There we go, he hit me again. I think it did a little bit more damage that time. But yeah, as you can see, a little medium-sized stab will take these things out in 1 hit. And as you can see, they are doing damage to him, at considerable amounts of damage. And some may say, well, okay, well, I'm going to go off topic here. He is doing that nosedive move. As you can see, he's going straight down, and I started recognizing that, and I was like, I need to let go. He's going to drown me. And I almost drown here. I barely make it up to the top here. This is a very deep body of water. If he goes down too far before you let go, you will drown before you get up to the surface. So that's why I said as soon as you see him do that, you want to let go. Don't wait, because even if you let go, if he's too far down, you'll drown. You'll run out of air before you get to the surface. But anyways, what I was saying before that, some of you may be asking, well, why didn't they make all these spikes glyphs? Or like, why didn't they make them small glyphs? Well, I don't know. I think it just would have looked weird on his body, all these little tiny glyphs. I think the trigger points was a better idea. You know, having the spikes as trigger points. Alright, so he has 1 left, so this one's going to be a lot easier because I've already taken out the first 2, so all we have to do is just run to the last one. By the way, you'll notice what I'm doing here is when I get past the last spike, I turn around and I start swimming with him, like in the same direction. Because if you do that, you could actually grab on to his body a little bit earlier. If you wait until the last moment, you'll grab on to the very end of his tail, and it takes a lot longer for you to get up to the front of him. I don't know if you noticed from the cutscene when it showed his body, but he has a very long body. Good thing is he has plenty of fur to grab onto. Why does an eel have fur? I don't know. You'd think he'd be a bit slippery, like an actual eel, but you know, they had to give you something to grab onto. But I think it's time to end this. It's time to end this HYDRUS. By the way, I have no problem killing this guy because, you know, his name is the Leviathan, so I mean, you figure he's probably causing a lot of trouble in this area. You know, I mean, he's a giant monster in this lake. You know, so I would imagine people are probably afraid to go in here because of him. And he's probably terrorized this area quite a bit. So once you get on his head, you just want to stab the glyph. He'll rear his head up and out of the water constantly. Obviously, you can't stab him underwater, so make sure when he raises his head above water, you get a stab in. So here I kept trying to stab him. I was pushing square, but for some reason, Wander was not readying his sword. I have no idea why. Even though I was not shaking. But I finally get a stab off, and I finally kill the Leviathan. I don't know why, that's always been one of my favorite death scenes, as he just, you know, his whole body just becomes limp and lifeless, and he just plummets to the lake floor below. Alright, so there's his body. We're going to swim away, try to get away from the death spaghetti. I know it's coming eventually. Where is it? It's kind of scary because you can't see it. So let's look right up on you. Oh my god! Alright, we are almost halfway there. 7 out of 16. 1 more and we'll be halfway there. Alright, so next time on Shadow of the Colossus we would take on Colossus number 8, the only one in the game that actually has a Japanese name, not a Latin name. I really like the next fight. I know a lot of people hate it. I actually really like it. It's one of my favorites in the game. So that'll be next time. So this is Joseph from Nerds and Matrimony saying thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.